must be playing defensive. Schmeichel's not coming up for this one. Thinks he's done enough.
Is this their moment? Into Sheringham and Solskjaer has won it! Manchester United have reached the promised land. Oli Solskjaer, 2 substitutes, and scored the 2 goals in stoppage time.
4,
And the
3,
treble looms large.
1.
Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel, and we're back with another morning news show. Plenty to get into today, guys. Obviously, it's been a few days since we've been back, and on the back of a good positive weekend for United as well. Good result in the league. Top 4 is getting closer and closer as the games go on. So we've got plenty to discuss this morning, guys, in relation to news. As you can see, anybody watching on Facebook or YouTube, the title is Time Up for the Glazers. So we're going to discuss the delay in a decision being made, really, by the Glazers. Some of the bidders are not happy that they haven't heard anything in over 2 weeks. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a big summer clear out for Eric Ten Hag as well. Up to 13 players potentially going to be on the chopping block in relation to moving them on this summer. We're going to talk about potential incomings then as well. Another central midfielder Manchester United have been linked with. We're back in for a striker, young Evan Ferguson, so we're going to talk about that as well. And we're going to have a little bit of a talk at the end then about some of the comments from Jamie Carragher in relation to what he said about Vidic, basically, that he's nowhere near as good as Virgil van Dijk. So look, get your thoughts and comments into the chat as well, guys, as we go. Oisin, good to see you there. Morning to you. Chris is in as well. Early morning over there in Florida. So you're all welcome, guys. Great to see people in on TikTok as well. But look, let's jump straight into it. Obviously, the main thing we're going to talk about today is the Glazers and the fact that, we want them gone as quickly as possible. So this was coming out from Mike Keegan yesterday. Those in the hunt for Manchester United are becoming increasingly frustrated, having not received any updates since filing the second bids more than 2 weeks ago. So look, as we know, the Glazers have received bids. The second bid, officially the second bid. Now, we know the first bids that came in previously were a kind of a preliminary bid, not really official, or look, that's what we were hearing. So, the first bids, if we're going to be calling them that, came in 2 weeks ago, over 2 weeks ago now, and there hasn't been any decision from the Glazers yet. And according to these reports, there hasn't been very much communication. As we know, the Rain Group are the group that are dealing with the sale of the club for the Glazers, and they are the ones that are in direct communication with any potential bidders coming in for Manchester United. And it's been over 2 weeks since they've heard anything. It's from a fan standpoint as well, it's beginning to come, it's getting a little bit frustrating as well. So as we can see here, it's also been reported in the Mirror. Sorry, let me just get it up here for you. Bidders in the race for Manchester United are growing frustrated over the Glazers family lack of updates. The Glazers put the club up for sale back in November, with interested parties given till the new year to prepare bids, so on and so forth. The Rain Group overseeing the proposed sale. Potential bidders were given extensions. We know all of that as well. According to the Mail, bidders have expected to hear back within a week after lodging their second bids. Follow-ups are expected in the coming days, but time it's said to remain. Time is of the essence. So look, bidders are not happy about this, and we can see the frustration growing. And this is one of the main points that I wanted to come to. There's also growing concerns that the clock ticking. Should the Glazer family accept an offer for full control, any chosen bidder may not be in place in time to oversee the summer transfer window. And that's what we're worried about, really, as as fans, that we don't want any delay in the sale of the club to affect the summer transfer window, because we know how important the summer transfer it's going to be. And we're going to get onto that, in a few minutes as well, how important it is and how much of a I suppose an important summer it is in terms of Ten Hag's rebuild. You know, obviously we had a very good start to Eric Ten Hag's transfer reign, I suppose, last summer. But I mean, we can't rest on our laurels either. You know, we have to kick on in relation to such a good year we've had, you know, and an increase in good performances, and, you know, the mentality is improved and the whole atmosphere around the club is improved. But we need to kick on from it. We really do. Oshin says, I said it weeks ago that they had no interest in selling, all a smokescreen. Well, that's the big worry, really, isn't it, from Manchester United fans, that, you know, the last thing we want to see is, you know, the Glazers now backing off and saying, no, look, we're happy to keep control and we're happy to stay on, and all of that kind of stuff. And that's the last thing we want to see as fans. So, yeah, look, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. You know, I think the fact that these kind of reports are coming out may or may not, I think more so they may maybe speed up the process a little bit. You know, I won't say the Glazers are very too PR orientated, because they don't really give a shit about anything other than money. But I think if these kind of reports are coming out and potential bidders are starting to get frustrated, then you might see them jump, you know, and you might see them maybe give them some updates, and maybe this week, hopefully, we'll hear of something. But I suppose the big worry is, like the guys are saying here, you know, the summer transfer window is what's most important for United to kick on and hopefully, you know, take that next step going forward in the Eric Ten Hag era and the process and all of that. And I think the longer the Glazers stay, the more it's going to hamper Eric Ten Hag. Because, look, we know, obviously there's going to be, you know, a lot of players on the chopping block this summer, and there's a lot of areas that United continue to need to improve. You know, we need a number 9, we need another centre midfielder, we need another centre back, we need a right back, we potentially need another goalkeeper. So it's going to be a very important summer. The last thing we want to do is lose momentum, you know, because we've built up such good momentum in the past 8 or so months under Ten Hag that, you know, you don't want to be resting on your laurels, like we said. You know, I do think that we need to kick on. I do think that we need to continue to improve. We need to continue to invest in the squad. And if the Glazers are there, we know what's going to happen. The squad is not going to be invested in as much as we would like. Katie says, it's only just giant any positive update about Glazers going, meant to be updated at 10 by rumours. Well, look, we haven't heard any updates. These are the reports coming out as well from you know, from British journalists. But look, I have a feeling we're gonna get some movement on it in the coming days. I just have a sneaky suspicion that these kind of reports coming out are a prerequisite to maybe some decisions being made. Now, whether that decision is an acceptance of a bid or whether that decision is a rejection of bids, I still think that we're going to probably see a third round of bidding going in. I really do. You know, if the first round of bidding was, you know, not really an official one, then the second round was the first round of bidding, potentially. I think the Glazers are probably going to come back with some form of counter offer and say, or they could just outright say, look, this is not what we want. We want more. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, but I do think we're going to get a third round of bidding. I really do. But let's see what happens. It's exciting times. Look, we're playing well. Europa League on Thursday. We're doing well in the league. You know, we're still in 2 cup competitions. We've got a trophy in the bag, and the club is potentially going to be up for sale. So it's exciting times. But look, let's move it on to potential transfers coming in to Manchester United. Obviously, we know the main area that Ten Hag wants to improve this summer is number 9. Now, look, we do know the connections are there with the likes of Harry Kane, you know, Victor Osimhen, all of these types of players. But obviously and this is a player that we've discussed before, and obviously, me being Irish, it's great to see some Irish links with Manchester United again. But look, we know about Evan Ferguson. United want Evan Ferguson this summer, as well as a more experienced striker. And this is something that, you know, we've been talking an awful lot about on the channel, that if we are to go out and get a Harry Kane, and, you know, obviously Harry Kane will be 30 years of age in the summer, and you're probably not going to get him on a, not that you're not going to get him on a long-term deal, you would, but you're talking about how long are we going to get out of a Harry Kane in relation to him still being at his peak? And you're talking maybe 3, probably 4 seasons, still scoring goals. And I think going out and getting the likes of an Evan Ferguson, given how good of a player he is, I think it's a good strategy going forward. If you have a Harry Kane for 3 years and then you have an Evan Ferguson that's playing underneath and getting 15 to 20 games a season, ready to step in and take over in 3 years' time, I think it's a good plan. But Brighton are hopeful of agreeing a new contract with boy wonder Evan Ferguson before the end of the month, despite strong interest from Manchester United and Tottenham. Now, look, this, in my opinion, is only adding, I suppose, more. I think the ball is more in Manchester United and Evan Ferguson's court. He's only after signing for Brighton last summer from Bohemians in the League of Ireland. And when you sign from League of Ireland and you go to England, your first contract is not going to be big. You know what I mean? It's not going to be big. And it's probably not going to be overly long either. And I think that's why Brighton are looking to come out and put a new deal in front of him. So I think all of the balls are in Evan Ferguson's court. And if a club like Manchester United are coming in for him when he's just after signing for Brighton the previous year, I think it bodes well for Manchester United. And I think United know that. I think they're in a strong position if they do want to go out and buy him. And we know he's a Manchester United fan. Evan Ferguson supported United as a boy and idolises Wayne Rooney. So all of these kind of things are only leaning into the positivity that United could potentially go out and get him. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Let me know what you think, guys. Do you think Evan Ferguson would be a good fit for United? In relation to maybe if we were to go out and get a Harry Kane and have Evan Ferguson as maybe your I won't say your backup, but your second striker. That. And I think if he did come into Manchester United, there would be no issues with him getting 15 to 20 games a season. And for an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, there's nothing wrong with that. Playing under, and learning off of a Harry Kane and learning off of an Eric Ten Hag for 2 or 3 seasons. And then all of a sudden you're 22 years of age, with probably 60 to 70 games already played for Manchester United, ready to take over from a Harry Kane. I think it's a good strategy, and I hope it's one that we do go with. Oshin says, let me see here. Glazers way overvalue United at 6 billion, essentially pricing themselves out. We're open to sell, but we're not. Yeah, I get you. I get it 100%. That can be just a bargaining tactic from the Glazers as well. They probably know the real value of the club and they want more for it. So I think they could still be willing to sell while looking for 6 billion. If they know the club is valued at 4.5 billion, putting it up for 4.5 billion and then counter offers coming in for 3.75 or 4 billion. If you put it up for a higher amount and then, the more you put it up for, the more leeway you can have in terms of not having to come down too much. Because if you're starting at 4.5 and you meet at 4, for example, if you start at 6 and the first bid is 4.5, you can meet at 5.25. So it's probably just a bargaining tactic. And he also says Kane would do a job like Van Persie. All Brighton are doing are adding zeros to his price tag in relation to Ferguson. Yeah, I agree, absolutely. But I just have a feeling it's a good way of going about it. Gary says, totally agree with Ferguson signing. Martial needs to be moved on, had plenty of chances. Yeah, look, if Martial could stay fit, I think he would be a really good player for Manchester United under the likes of a Ten Hag and the way Ten Hag likes to play. But if he can't stay fit, he can't stay fit. He's had enough chances this season. I don't know if Ten Hag, it's going to come down to how much Ten Hag wants to keep him. But if he is moved on, I would be happy with a Harry Kane and Evan Ferguson and even a Weghorst. If we give him another 1-year deal to keep him on, as a third option, I am happy with them options as your 3 strikers. And then we know Marcus Rashford can play there as well. You know what I mean? So I would be really, really happy with that. Dermot says Kane is too old, best days behind him, with an increased risk of injuries. I don't agree with what you're saying there, Dermot. I get what you're saying, but I think for a number 9, I think number 9s can score goals well into their 30s. I really can. And I think this injury, he had 1 or 2 seasons where he picked up some injuries. I will agree with you, but he hasn't been injured in 3 years, I don't think. And I think he carries that kind of myth of being injury prone because of that spell where he had 3 or 4 injuries. But look, everyone to their own, you know what I mean? I mean, like, I'm not going to say you're wrong, because there is no right or wrong answer in this. People have, their favorites. I think I've always said it. I think Kane would be, I just always had something in my mind that Kane in a Man United jersey just fits for some reason. He's that kind of goal scorer, that number 9 that United have always had. Your Van Nistelrooys, your Andy Coles, your Wayne Rooney's, Harry Kane's, just out and out goal scorers. United have always had him. You know what I mean? Mickey says talks of Weghorst being available to buy now. Yeah, exactly, and that's what we're saying there. Potentially with the option of bringing a Weghorst on a 12-month deal for pittance, really. As a maybe a third choice option. I wouldn't be against it at all. Oshin says Martial, Sancho, Van de Beek, McTominay, and one of Lindelof, Maguire. Hopefully Maguire need to go. Apparently we have to sell to buy this year. Yeah, and that brings me nicely into nice segue into, I suppose, a big overhaul in the summer, what Ten Hag wants to do. And according to these reports, Eric Ten Hag is planning a huge Manchester United summer clear out with 13 players set to depart. Now, we heard this last summer. It's all well and good saying you want to clear out this many people. It's a lot harder to actually do it, especially with certain players being on certain wages. If they're happy just to continue picking up a paycheck, it can be hard to move these types of players on. But it says here, let me just see, we'll get down to what players we're looking at potentially moving on. So if we look here, up to a dozen clubs are to be interested in signing Anthony Elanga, but Eric Bailly is not expected to return. Obviously, he's on loan with Marseille. If we move down here as well, also, it also says Alex Telles is another player not tipped to return for Manchester United when his loan spell expires at Sevilla. And of course, question marks over Harry Maguire, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Donny van de Beek, Brandon Williams, and Martial are all, question marks are over all of them. So, look, it's all well and good looking to offload all of these players. These players all also have to want to move on, Let's take Harry Maguire, for example, or Anthony Martial, any of them. You could easily say there that, Manchester United want to move on these players, but they're on nice wages, and they are in a club that's winning. It's all about ambitions of these types of players as well. Do they want to go and play football somewhere else for a team lower down, or are they happy to pick up a paycheck, do a Phil Jones on it, just sit in the background, turn up the training week in, week out? It's going to be interesting to see. Look, I do think Ten Hag has this kind of mindset that, look, if you're not playing, I don't want you, and he did trim the herd an awful lot last summer, but nowhere near as close to what it needs trimming. We do also have to stay on the sorry, someone's ringing me there. We do have to stay on the side of financial fair play also. There has been reports suggesting that Manchester United do have to buy to sell. Sell to buy. I don't think we have to sell to buy, but I do think that it is important that we're not just signing players, and that we actually get some money in the door for some of these fringe players while there is some value left to their name. An Eric Bailly you could get 15 to 20 million for, an Elanga you could get 15 to 20 million for, a Maguire you could get probably up to about 30 million for, I'd say. A Martial you could get 20 to 30 million for. In 12 months time, you're only losing value as time goes on. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think we do need to trim the herd. And look, it says it here again in the mail. There is expected to be a swath of departures after Eric Ten Hag spent the season at the helm, deciding who is good enough to make the same grade at Old Trafford as the Dutchman rebuild enters a new phase. So, look, it's going to be interesting to see. We do need to trim the herd. We do need to get rid of some of the dead wood, and hopefully we can get it done as much of it as we can in the summer. Let's go through some of the comments. Mickey says the only loan I want to stay is Sabitzer. He's been amazing for us. I agree with you, Mickey. Absolutely, I agree with you. He also says controversially, I'd say keep McTominay. You can see the difference in him with Ten Hag. I wouldn't be in a rush to judge McTominay yet in relation to staying or going. Let's see what he does between now and the end of the season. He's had a good 10 days between club and country. So, but he's had a bad 2, 3, 4 years, So let's see what he does between now and the end of the season. Graham says, is summer the time when Phil Jones finally leaves? I think it is, I think his contract is up in the summer, so it'll be time for him to move on. Whether clubs come in for him or not is another thing. Oshin says, Phil Jones, the GOAT, needs another 5-year contract. Totally forgot Bailly and Tellez are only on loan. And he also says, United taking serious losses on all those names you mentioned. They are, but it's a previous reign that we're making this loss on. It's not the Ten Hag era that he didn't sign these players. Even the board and the directors didn't sign these players. So let's hope we don't make these kind of mistakes in the future. But if you're signing players from Manchester United, the chances are you're going to take a loss on them. Down through the years when Ferguson was manager, take any successful player that come into Manchester United, you always sell them for less than you buy him for. Jaap Stam, for example, Ruud van Nistelrooy, obviously Cristiano Ronaldo wasn't, but the majority of players that come in, if you do well at Manchester United, you move them on. If you're leaving Manchester United, the chances are you're not going to a bigger club. There is exceptions. Obviously, your Cristiano Ronaldo's and things like that. But the majority of time, you're going to be buying players. You're going to be selling them for less. Let's see. Jones is leaving. Ten Hag has him on the short list, says Mickey. And Chris also says Williams to be sold. Exactly. Brandon Williams is there as well. I'd expect him to be moved on in the summer also. Samuel, thanks for the gifts on TikTok. Really appreciate it. Gary says, hope we avoid Bellingham and Rice auctions. Bellingham is top class, but will cost a fortune. Again, I agree with you there, Gary, and it all depends on who comes in the summer, or in relation to new ownership there as well. So it's going to be interesting to see. It really is going to be interesting to see. Now let's move on to certain areas that obviously we're looking to improve. We mentioned obviously the striking department. Now we've also, and we know Manchester United are looking at, I suppose, improving the midfield there as well. And we've been linked with another player from the Eredivisie in the past few days, and it's this guy. Let me get it up here, and it's Koku from Feyenoord, central midfielder. And look, obviously, Fabrizio Romano, as mentioned here, Manchester United scouts, along with other teams, are monitoring Feyenoord's midfielder Koku. I think that's how you pronounce it. There aren't any direct negotiations as of now. So look, we know that Ten Hag does like to go back into the Eredivisie. He knows it awfully well. And who are we to say any different? He's been exceptional in the transfer market. I'm not even going to say 2 transfer markets, because he's only had 1. We didn't buy anyone in January, and so. Who are we to do, and I've just been looking at some of this guy's stats, and they're quite impressive in midfield. So let me show you here. Let me zoom in on these. So basically, this on the on the left-hand side here is his statistics. And the column that we're looking at is this one here, and it's your percentile. So if you see 95% here, so non-penalty goals, he's in the top 95%. So he's in the top 5% basically. And it's good reading. The further this green line is, the better it is, you know. And obviously, as a midfielder, you want to be looking at a lot of things in this column here. Passes attempted, he's in the top 98 percentile. Passes completed is a bit lower. It's 39%. Now, I always don't mind seeing, and I think this is where a lot of people, if we take Bruno Fernandes, for example, he gets an awful lot of stick about giving the ball away an awful lot. But you have to be attempting to pass the ball to give it away an awful lot. Players who have high percentile pass percentages, now I don't want to see him down as low as 39, but people who have middle to high pass percentile and that give it away a lot is because they're attempting passes. And you want to see that from your more creative players. And I think he falls into this kind of category. His progressive passes are in the 99 percentile range. Progressive carries are in the top 96 percentile range. And then we have touches, 86. Progressive passes received, 82. You know, shot creating actions, 99. All of these kind of stuff I wouldn't be too worried about. Total shots, he's in the 98 percentile as well. So look, it's very good. You know, it does bode for good reading. It really does. And it is an area, obviously, that we're looking at improving. So look, I can't say that I know too much about this player because I don't. I don't watch the Eredivisie a lot. But if our manager who has managed in the Eredivisie, who knows the players well in it, who's bought well from it so far, says that he wants this player from the Eredivisie, who are we to say otherwise? So look, I have no issues with Ten Hag going back into the Eredivisie and looking for players. I'd be happy with it. Let's see. But yeah, happy days. So I would be happy with that. Obviously, there's been updates as well, guys, in relation to the right back area. And as we know, Frimpong has been a player that we've been linked with over the past couple of weeks. And it says here, obviously, this is Fabrizio saying it again. Man United feel that Frimpong adds something new to the current right back option in the squad. The player himself would be keen on a move. And we do know that Manchester United have been speaking to his representatives as well. So look, that's it's positive signs, and you know we're starting to see that kind of positive kind of stepping stones in relation to a transfer. The initial interest, the player coming back and saying he'd be open to a move, the Man United speaking to his representatives. All of these boxes are just being ticked nicely, and I think if they keep being ticked, I think this guy is going to be signing for Manchester United in the summer. If we're looking, and I know it's early days yet, but from all of the players that we've been linked at, this guy seems to be the one that has the most potential of actually signing for United so far. Now we know obviously the Kane links and the Osman links and the Ferguson links and these kind of things, but this guy hasn't beaten around the bush an awful lot. He said, look, I want to play in the Premier League. I like Manchester United. Our representatives have spoken with his who's he playing for? Leverkusen have already bought a new right back and have agreed terms with the new right back to replace him in the summer. So I think this one is as close as any. So happy days. But look, it is an area that we're looking to improve on. And a lot of people are saying, look, it's good, you know, the right back area is okay at the moment. It's not a major area of concern. You always have to be buying when options are available. You know what I mean? Manchester United done it for years. And I think that's why Liverpool are finding themselves in the slump that they're in at the moment. They didn't buy well when they were winning. And I think it's something that Manchester United always done well under Ferguson. You know, we know that big clear out in the mid-90s for the class of 92 to come through, you know, the selling of Hughes and Ince and Kanchelskis and these players freshen up the team. And then, you know, you've always seen it, you know, buying Rooney, for example, buying Rio Ferdinand, you know, buying Carlos Tevez, you know, these types of players, all while we were winning. So I think it's an important thing for United to do. So we can never rest on our laurels. We really can't. And I think if players, even if it's not a priority area that you want to be strengthening, if a player becomes available and you can think that will improve us next season, we need to be in there for him. We really do. So it's going to be interesting to see. Smash a like on the video as well, guys, if you haven't done so already. Anybody watching on YouTube, take a second, hit the thumbs up button for me. Helps the channel out an awful lot. If you're new to the channel, do hit the follow button if you're watching on TikTok. And if you're watching on YouTube, do hit the subscribe button over there as well. Closing in on 3,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we're closing in on 30,000 on TikTok. So it's great to see. Please take a second, hit the thumbs up button for me. Let's see what people are saying here. I think there's a bit of a back and forth in the chat on YouTube as well. Mickey says, if Napoli win the Champions League, nobody's getting Osimhen. Maybe so. Maybe so. Let's see. Chris is saying, if we spend over 80 million for Kane, then we are just foolish. Oshin says, Levy will hold our feet to the flames over price, always does. Yeah, I don't think he has as much bargaining power this summer because Kane only has 1 year left on his contract. And by the looks of it, Kane wants out. He doesn't want to stay, you know, so it'll be interesting to see. Tyke says, only fear for Frimpong if someone else will swoop in and offer more. Maybe so, maybe so. Mickey says, it's okay, Liverpool will try, but all-out options. Why not just give them Maguire and let the universe take its course? I love it. I love it. Ryan says, do you think Mbappe comes? Nope, not a chance. And I wouldn't want him either. I wouldn't want him. Mikhail says, Wan-Bissaka clear of Delo, I would presume there. And Stephen says, Victor, Osimhen or Kane. I would go, if we're going for an Evan Ferguson, I would go with Harry Kane. He guaranteed to score goals in the Premier League. Now, I'm not saying that Victor Osimhen isn't, but he's never done it before. So we know Kane will score you goals. So I would like to see a Harry Kane and an Evan Ferguson signed in the summer. And that gives you striking options for 8 or 9 years easily. Harry Kane for the first 3 to 4 with, you know, Ferguson as your backup, and then he's 22, 23 years of age, ready to take over for the next 10 years. I think it's a really smart, future planning. Whether they do that or not, I don't know. I think if the likes of a Victor Osimhen comes, I think the likes of an Evan Ferguson doesn't stay or doesn't come. And I think you would be looking at maybe Osimhen and keeping the likes of maybe Martial as a second striker if he wants to stay. I don't know. But I would be happy with either. I would be happy with either. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. So it is. So let's talk about this dickhead. What an absolute plonker. Anyway, so Jamie Carragher, as we all know, if you haven't heard, has come out over the weekend and basically said that, let me show you. He's basically said that Virgil van Dijk is far better than Vidic, who was a top centre-back, but have you forgot his performances against Torres? Rio and John Terry had poor seasons in their careers like all players. Virgil van Dijk is having one now. No centre-back in the Premier League era has ever... Sorry, I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't hold in the laughter. No centre-back in the Premier League era has ever had Virgil van Dijk's impact on a team. Really. So, let's start with that last sentence. First and foremost, Vidic signed for Manchester United on the back of 3 seasons in a row when we never won anything. We went on to win 3 Premier League titles in a row, and we won the Champions League on the back of him signing. Okay? Now, let's look at some of the stats here, because I'm going to put this up. Anyway, you can see it there. It's just... It's typical Liverpool bullshit, right? So let's look at some of the stats. Nemanja Vidic versus Van Dijk in the Premier League era. Appearances. Vidic has had less, okay? Van Dijk has had more. Vidic has more wins, okay? So the yellow column is what you want to be in the yellow column, okay? So Vidic has more wins. He has less losses. He has less goals conceded. He has he has more clean sheets than Virgil van Dijk. He has a better tackle success rate. Van Dijk beats him in aerial duels won by 1%. Okay. Van Dijk has more goals. He also has more assists. Vidic has more game-winning goals. He has more last-man tackles. He has more goal line clearances. He has less errors leading to goals. Okay, so you can talk about your Fernando Torres bullshit all you want, Jamie. They're equal on most goals in a season. Vidic has, you probably can't see it under the, let me move that so you can see. Vidic has more player of the seasons, 2-1 in Van Dijk. And he has 5 Premier League titles to Vidic, or to Van Dijk's 1. Now, I mean, I'm not just saying this as a Manchester United fan, okay? And I'm not, I don't have my Man United hat on here. Virgil van Dijk is not even in the top 10 Premier League centre-backs of all time. He's not. He's had 2 good seasons. He's had a Premier League title in one of them, and he's had a Champions League in the other one, okay? Outside of that, he's been relatively average, I would say. And this season, he's been so poor. It's been unbelievable. You know what I mean? I think he's played against strikers that are not as good as Vidic has played in the Premier League season, or in the Premier League era. Yeah, look, and Oisin hits the nail on the head here. Virgil never played against Drogba, a Ferguson, a Shearer, no real bullies until Haaland came in recently. Liverpool won a Premier League and had an open top bus for a League Cup. Enough said. There you go. So, look, Vidic was playing against Torreses. He was playing against Drogba's. He was playing against real strikers. And I just think this is nonsense out with Jamie Carragher. It really is. And we can see here. Let me just see. I had one here. Yeah, so Terry Flowers replies back to him. He says, Vidic arrived at Man United, won 5 Premier League titles, 1 Champions League, 3 League Cups and a Club World Cup. That's a bigger impact. Plus, Torres scored 3 times in 15 games against Vidic. So Vidic won that war too. You know what I mean? So, I mean, this is just Jamie Carragher completely with his Liverpool hat on. And I think it's he had a dig at Vidic a couple of weeks ago, saying that I think it was after the Real Madrid game, and he said I'd get into the Liverpool team at the moment, you know, and Virgil van Dijk had a little bit of a go back to him. So I think he's probably just kissing his arse a little bit at the moment. And he's trying to make up for it, you know, but I just think it's absolute nonsense. And I'm going to probably do a video on it where I go into depth, but I just wanted to say to you, let's see what you're saying here. Vidic is far better, says Chris. Mickey says, but as a centre-back, goals and assists don't really matter. Exactly. He says, exactly, Oisin, who has really tested Virgil van Dijk compared to Vidic. Vidic had Van Persie, Henry, Shearer, Drogba, etc. Yeah, absolutely. Chris says, Carragher is saying this to get noticed. He wants the limelight. Oisin says, as Keane says, big baby, a big baby. And he also says, Carragher could buy Vidic's boots. Never mind, laced them. There we go. And Mickey says, but yet Rashford has scored 5 times. Yeah, exactly. And look, if we're looking at it as well, you know, and even if you're going to be going down the road of that Torres versus Vidic route, you know, okay, he had Torres that tore him asunder in a couple of games. Fucking Virgil van Dijk is getting torn asunder by Bournemouth, by, you know, Leicester, these types of teams with strikers playing for him. So he doesn't even come into the top 10, in my opinion. You're talking about real Premier League defenders. Ferdinand, Vidic, Terry, Carvalho, Tony Adams, Sol Campbell, you know, I mean, the list goes on. It really does. Even Company, I think, is a better centre-back than him. He'd done it for longer. You know what I mean? There's no comparison. I don't think Virgil van Dijk gets into the top 10. I really don't. And it's because of his consistency. He hasn't done it for long enough over a long period of time. And he hasn't won enough. You know what I mean? He really hasn't. So, look, I think that's my stance on it. It really is. But look, let's see. I don't know. to hell with them. Let them go back to mediocrity, which they're pretty much doing at the moment. And they're not going to, by the looks of it, they're not going to have an awful lot to spend in the summer. And they need, anyway, this is not a Liverpool channel. Fuck them. It's a United channel. But look, that's it for today, guys. Really appreciate everybody who's tuned in. Great chat in the comment section as well. If you're new to the channel on TikTok, hit the follow button. I try and do these every morning. So we'll be back again tomorrow morning. And we're going to be doing the members only chat on YouTube as well. So anybody on YouTube, if you do want to become an official member, link is in the description. But first and foremost, just hit the subscribe button. Helps out the channel an awful lot. Hit the thumbs up button for me as well. If you're new to the channel. Anybody on TikTok, hit the follow button as well. If you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, link is on the homepage also. And of course, big week coming up, guys. Quarter-final of the Europa League, Sevilla at home. Really looking forward to it. We'll be doing a watch-along for that as well. But we'll be back again tomorrow morning for your news update. But I really appreciate everyone tuning in. And yeah, if you're watching back at a later date to this, later in the evening, I know a lot of people watch these in the evening times. They can't watch it live. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you tomorrow.